Hey everybody, this is Peter Palmiotti, and this is Making Comics and Art, episode 195, I think. I forget. Um, a lot of episodes. Um,
Yeah.
so welcome one and all. First, I'll talk a little bit about just briefly. The last episode didn't pan out the way I wanted to, but I did talk about like there's a cat situation in my immediate neighborhood, and what I decided to do is I'm gonna put together a fundraiser on Facebook, and once I get that set up, then I'll put the link in my stream videos and all that. It looks like there's a couple of people interested in maybe pledging to that and so forth. It's just we have at least a dozen strays, and I'm looking to get them all fixed. It would be great if we can get them homes as well, but post COVID, it's just insane. Like everybody's, like all the cat places are overbooked and having troubles of their own. So at least do that and see what can help them out. Make the neighborhood less insane
Yes. Yes.
and and safer for my cats. My cat. Most of my cats are indoor outdoor, so when they come across the others, there's fights and all that. So that's not good. But hey, I see Pops showed up. Welcome, Pops. Um, we're gonna get right into it with Cody. Welcome,
All right.
good
Thank
sir.
you. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so very much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So first I'll mention to the audience that you sent me a copy of your book, and I read the first issue. And the art is phenomenal. The coloring is phenomenal. The lettering, I didn't have a problem with it, and that's the perfect thing with lettering.
Exactly. That's the bare
uh,
minimum at that level. And that's if you're not doing that, then you got some trouble.
yeah. And the story is a great introduction to the character, and I imagine as you go on with issues, then you'll uh, get deeper into like the direction of where you're taking the character and all that. And here's Pops throwing the link. Thank you, Pops.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
you can
Pops.
go check out the latest issue, issue 4. Not many people do individual issues, so I'm super happy to see you doing that.
Yeah, it's kind of been the plan since the beginning. Just because of how I have this structured and how the story we're working at kind of needs to be told. It's going to be a long running, ongoing series. As long as folks are interested, we're going to keep adding to that number. There's a lot to tell, and not always that much time to do it, but we'll do the best we can, and it's worked so far.
Excellent, excellent. So, for anybody watching now or later, um, give us the lowdown on the character and the buff.
No, absolutely. So, Jack Iron Steel Cowboy. The elevator pitch, the one line pitch is a reincarnated immortal seeks freedom and purpose in galactic Armageddon. That's got a lot of big terms and hopefully gets imagination moving. That's always my hope. But more specifically, when you get into it, it manifests. It came from me and my growing awareness of the the human experience, all the history and weight behind us as you move from childhood to adulthood. And so Jack Irons was kind of a uh, an icon, a symbol for me to channel that energy and that struggle, those thoughts and such into something constructive and something I can explore. And the journey, actually diving into comics and all of that, has been just wonderful. It's been so. I mean, there's plenty of speed bumps, like any art, and there's plenty of heartaches here and there, but. Uh, this project has allowed me to experience has just been a wonderful gift, and I'm so happy how it's happened. Doing the crowdfunding angle, this isn't a story that I think any. In fact, I can guarantee, because I pitched this to publishers for quite some time, that anybody would be like super interested in publishing mainstream. So this is definitely a story that you'll only get through us and our dedication and passion in delivering it to you. Um, it really is just kind of an exploration, looking out at the world and finding a pathway through it, instead of succumbing to it or becoming cynical or any of the many other ways to deal with that weight. It was a different path, and it's a lot of fun. I throw in a bunch of influences that I enjoy. I mean, Mad Max has been a big one, but there's a lot of little bits there that I think people can latch onto. And again, it's done wonders for myself, and from what I've heard, it's done quite a bit of good for other folks too. Whether it's the ability for our work to inspire folks, how we came out of nowhere and have been able to do this and get as far as we have, or it's the character itself and the journey we're taking readers on. It's the best part, and meeting new people like yourself and all of that is just icing on the cake. That is just wonderful.
All right. Yeah, it's a professional looking book for sure, and yeah, like what's your background like? Were you into comics kid? Like, were you inspired to do your own one day? What's the deal?
So I always kind of did a little bit of writing. I started with plays because I like more like setup and dialogue, right? And then eventually I was exposed
Right.
to comics. There's a particular run of Ghost Rider that got me like, oh, this is what you can do in comics. Garth Ennis's and Clayton Crane's run, Ghost Rider Road to Damnation, showed me something I hadn't seen in any other medium, that just blew me away. Crane's digital art in particular was just something completely out of this world at the point I came across it. And so that was like, okay, so this has a lot of possibilities in this medium. Then I looked into it and I found that scripting for comics doesn't really have rigidity to it. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and of course the successful way is the way that you and your artist can actually make a book out of, right? And that was all I really needed to be like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. This is a medium that I can work with. And since then, like meeting Maxi Dallo in person, which was just a very serendipitous kind of thing, because he's an Argentinian and he just comes up to my area once in a while. Um, I tried breaking into comics in different ways. Tried online looking for an artist. Very hard to find folks who will help you along in comics, especially if you don't know what you're doing. And I get that everybody's time is limited, right? But
Right.
being able to meet and I don't know, exchange, break bread with somebody, particularly an artist like that, allowed this thing to happen. And we've been at it again. So Jack Irons, I kind of came up with about 16 years ago when I was writing those scripts again during that period of my life. And then I've been working with Maxi for about 7 now. Putting this together and getting them out, and then about the last 4 years, we've actually had the physical copies going out globally, and that's just been crazy heartwarming that people are interested in our work and what we have to say with it, and are willing to make sure it continues to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to? We can go to the page if you want to share it out, or do I have to share
Sure.
it?
No, I'm totally happy to run that part here. Let me see if I
Okay.
can.
Cool. Cool.
It would be here, but I do need it to. Then I'm gonna need to select it over here. But it should work. It should work. I just go over here.
Okay.
Um, and I think you folks see it. I can't see StreamYard at the moment with how I goofily did this, but as long as it's being shared, I think we're good.
Okay.
Let me double check. Yeah, it
Um,
looks like it is. It's going back and forth. All right, there we go. So,
Okay.
come on. Okay, what? All these little overlays now. That's fun. I might have to refresh to get rid of those overlays. Thank you. All right. So we are at 28% as of today. I'm really, all of our campaigns, none of them have been like explosive. They've all been hard work and getting to the finish line. Our previous campaign, we were asking for 10K, and we made 4K of that the final day. So it's a weird set of projects that we've been doing. It's always a kind of a crazy ride doing a crowdfunding period, but our projects in particular, I never really know what's going on till about the last minute, and that's always a little hair raising. But I don't know. There's a little bit of fun to that too, and so we're doing pretty good. 62 backers. We're at such a high total because a lot of these backers have been really kind and picked up a lot of our higher tiers. We've sold out of our original art that we were offering with this campaign, and somebody picked up one of the hand painted resin figures
Nice.
from around here. So we got 4 of those on offer. But also, folks have been coming back, picking up issue 4, which is the goal. I want the returning readers. Absolutely. It means that we are doing what we're supposed to do and engaging people. And for folks who aren't kind of familiar with how we publish the work, we tend to do 48-page floppies. At least our previous 2 issues were that. They are 32 pages of story content and then 16 pages of extras, which can include bonus story content, concept art, fan art. We've had quite a bit of wonderful fan art, and that kind of stuff in the extra bit of the back there. And print quality's always been really great. All the learning curves that people have allowed me to experience has been, again, it's wonderful. I'm getting an education through these in doing this, and then you can rarely do that with a lot of different types of artistry, right? A lot of different attempts. You have to find a way to get that knowledge, and then this was my way, and it's been really cool to do that. From learning the printing to running the legal bits to running a team, all of that. Your investments in our work helps us grow and learn how to survive in this pretty insane industry at the end of the day. Um, so this is
Yeah.
the pages we have up for preview. There should be more before the end of the campaign. The book is in production currently and should be done before the campaign ends, at least line art wise. I think we hit coloring once funds come in. But yeah, I mean, take a look. We have issue number 1 for free linked on our website, ironversecomics.com. So there's like no entryway to kind of see if what we're doing is for you. Our work can be kind of niche in terms of the story we're telling and how we tell it. So I always recommend folks check it out. But if you love the artistry, you're probably going to like what we're doing. They're not divorced. Like, I'm not showing you one story through the art and then writing a different one. It's very much connected and cohesive. So likely, if you like what you see, you'll like what you get. Um, and we're offering a tier with the standee, a little. I don't know, what is it? It's like I think it's like a 3-inch wooden standee of this image down here. This fella right here. We are also offering, of course, you can get 1 through 4 as a bundle if you just want to jump into that, which has been nice. People are doing that. A lot of faith picking up the whole series instead of just number 1. But you can also just pick up number 1 if that's where you want to kind of get one of our remnants of our previous variant covers. That's a great way to start. Um, Digital, $4. If you've been reading us digital, then you can help us continue to make it and get a hold of it for the cheapest you can get it. You can get all of it together as well. We have this fun little misprint thing, and that has to do with an interesting story with, again, that learning curve with printing. That again was an interesting joy. So we ended up with 1,500 books that are 100% readable copies. Like they're not ugly or smudged or anything. It just wasn't up to the quality standard that we expected from the printer. And we ended up holding on to those. So if you want bulk books as well, you can do that and help us out because those are free books for us. So every dollar that goes towards them is just pure profit for us, which is always really nice. Always really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these are, of course, our three pinups that are on offer. One by the wonderful illustrator Monk of Jackie Irons, kind of a dime novel setup. Of course, the Boogie Bot pinup as well. I really enjoyed this guy's style, and I was so happy to work with him. And then the Hannah Davis pinup, which is kind of more of a classic, older school kind of feel to it. And it's always wonderful to work with a bunch of different artists. It's one of my favorite things to do. The books also come if you it's physical. It comes with a sticker, little bit of extra, right? Just a little bit
Yeah.
of whipped cream on top. But yeah, I mean, if you're into stories that explore the human condition, that are looking out at the world and trying to come to terms with it in a positive way, that's what we do here at Ironverse Comics. And some people need that, some people need more escapism, right? And we try and balance that. We try to look at it all with a bit of a smirk, a little bit of sarcasm, not taking it too seriously, but showing you the honest truth as best as we can create it, and as fun as we can create it. A lot of it's just big old caricatures. That's a lot of what we do.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely like I said, a great looking book, and people should go to the link, check it out. Like you said, you have the first issue to read. That's the
Yes.
issue I read, and yeah, I thought it was really well done, and yeah, the art is excellent.
Yes, our team's incredible. We've gone through so between issue 1 and 2, we the colors for issue number 1, between issue 1 and 2, and the funding, and a big journey with issue 1's campaign. If folks ever want to go back and like you're curious on how our campaigns are run, if you want to go into those logistics, of course the campaigns on Indiegogo, they stay up, so you can always go look at the comments, you can look at the feedback, you can look at the updates and see how that went. But one of the speed bumps we hit was that the colorist just was no longer making enough to feed his family through coloring, and he was a professional colorist working for Boom, working for a couple of the
Yeah.
relatively large indie publishers, and he just was not making enough to take care of his family, so he had to bow out of the comics industry. And it was very sad because he's a wonderful talent, beautiful colorist. And so trying to fill that gap afterwards was tough, and it took us a little bit of time, but we found Stephen Cannon eventually, and he's just incredible, and he's been with us these 3 issues so far. And as far as I know, he's on the team for the long haul, and it's the artistry that we're able to express at our level, especially my level, just kind of coming into this out of nowhere, is just a joy for me, and it definitely always humbles me and keeps me it keeps me hungry because I want to keep working with these folks and make sure that they keep getting wonderful work and can stay doing what they're doing, because they're very good at it. And as long as I'm able to do my job in the multiple purposes from marketing or for of course storytelling and being a face for the work, then I think I'm at least keeping up, which is also humbling because there's no way I could do what they do. There's just no way.
Yeah. It's like I definitely my experience. It's like colorist thing. Really nailed the person to. I had two different both humbled, and I decided I'm going to do the coloring myself. It's like I'm not highly skilled at coloring, but it's like I don't have time to, like mess mess around. It's like my experience with the first colorist and just going back and forth over every last detail of the coloring
Mhm.
really convinced me that I don't want to. have to do that.
I get you. Different projects
It's all.
are run. Are run very differently. Like for me, I'm very hands off. I'm not hands on until the project's starting to really come to cohesion. Then during like the heavy editorial and closer to lettering, then there's something. Otherwise, I tend to 100% trust. Like I'm lucky if I get a thumbnail per page from the penciler from the penciler inker Maxi Dallo, and he's never disappointed me on a page. There's been a couple places where I'm like, oh well, that gun was in his other hand in this panel, just little things like that. But there's never been direction he wanted to take something that I disagreed with, and same with the coloring. That's been very lucky for me, and the team doing what they want to do ends up being better than anything I had envisioned. So that allows me to be a bit more hands off on it. But some folks like Dollar Coins is in chat. He's a co-editor over at Ironverse Comics. And he's much more hands-on with artwork and with coloring and stuff, and that works really well for his team and his project, for what they need to communicate and how specifically they need to communicate. And again, that's why I love comics. Is there's so many ways to make them, and there's no exactly right way as long as you're making a good book.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. You know, what you were saying earlier, writing, like, yeah, it's like depending working with and what they work better with. You can give a loose plot to somebody and they fly with that, or you can give a highly detailed script and that works better for some.
Yeah, no, I've looked at, like, you look at some of these
Um,
the British comic writers, Neil Gaiman or Garth or Alan Moore, for instance. You look at their scripts; they're just so much flowery, like wording, almost like prose. And like how much of that actually makes it to the panel, and how much was just them writing, which is kind of a trip. And I can't do that. I'm very economical with my writing. I have, this is specifically what this panel's supposed to do, and that's basically what I put in there, even the dialogue. And then once art comes in, then I adjust dialogue or scripting to the artistry so it can reinforce what actually manifested a little bit better. But I know a lot of those writers, and especially in like more professional circumstances, you just don't have the time or ability to do that. So they're trying to really hammer home their point to those pencilers and inkers and colorists in some cases. And so yeah, again, it's just so many different ways to get it done, and I love it.
yeah. Let me address. Let's see. Dollar coins in the chat. Um, he asked what I was drawing. I'm inking a story for. Will be in the Wildcat anthology, which I think is crowdfunding this month. I'm not 100% sure. We'll see
Ooh.
soon enough. But uh, he says just for fun. I mean, everything I do is fun, but I also do this for a living, so not just for fun. uh, um, Steve doesn't listen to me even if I order him to change something. I guess Steve is somebody Dollar Coins works with.
Yeah, he's our colorist. He's the colorist on issues 2 and 3 and 4
Yeah.
of Jack. And there's a
Okay.
lot. Well, a lot of us are set in our ways. I assume, and that's funny, Dollar. You don't really tell me when that happens, so I didn't know that. But that's funny. That's funny. Again, I don't really. I'm very hands off. I'm totally happy with them just manifesting what they think is best, because usually it's better than what I could have if I was trying to hold tight onto everything.
Yeah. Well, it's like I've been in this industry 30 years, um, mostly as an anchor, and I'm really picky when it comes to coloring. Um,
Yeah.
so it's just my personal experience is yeah, made it hard for anybody to work with that's a colorist.
I get you there, but even decent coloring can ruin amazing inks. right? So I'm totally
Yeah,
with you there. Like you need stellar coloring to it needs to be elevating the work, otherwise the colors are kind of in the way, and it can be very hard to find
yeah,
like a pattern that between the line art and the expression of color that does do that elevation. But if you can get that, man, it's wonderful. But yeah, especially if it's like your work on there and you spent so much time doing it inking. I know Maxi again. It was tough finding another colorist because we had different goals for a good chunk of time. I wanted to get the book done. He wanted to get it done very well. And eventually I was like, yeah, very well is better. I'll just let people know we're going to be a little slower because we want to do this right. And we eventually found somebody who wasn't exactly Maxi's perfect pick, but he was able to find the mid ground between what I wanted, which was that kind of vibrant science fiction, bright colorization, and what Maxi likes, which is more earthy tones. And I think we continue to hit it, and I'm very, very proud to be part of that team.
yeah, yeah. Cool. Um, so is I imagine this isn't your full time gig.
No, no,
Um,
not at all. No, not even close. I do a lot of side hustles, of course, but I primarily work with animals. I work with dogs at a pet resort, running dog play care play groups and just animal care hospitality there, making sure everything's kind of working right and everybody's taken care of. And then I do a little bit of healthcare work as well. Mostly caretaking stuff is what I've done most of my life, and this sort of has elements of that. It's a little different, but it has elements of it.
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's like, I know a lot of people that, specifically cats, but cats are
Yeah.
animals too.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's very cool. Especially since like COVID, like I said, like it's just more and more strays around, and in this town specifically, like we have a lot of cat strays, but also have a lot of dog strays. It's
Yeah.
like people moving or whatever, and they just leave their pets behind. I could
Yeah.
never do that. I can never do
No, I
that.
know it's insane. I saw a lot of that. And a lot of people too will adopt, and then they held on to them for a month or throughout COVID, and then once they were back to work, they got rid of the animal, and it's just heartbreaking. I saw
Yeah,
plenty of that in the shelters around here, and it's really it was great to see people getting a hold of critters because they are so good for the soul, if you ask me. But if you're
yeah,
getting them to the point where you're not like they're part of your family, then I mean, they were probably going to be in trouble if they stuck with that owner anyway. But see them dumped on the street even, and not even take it to a shelter or someplace where they have a better shot it is heartbreaking, 100%. And I am very glad to hear
yeah,
at least you're trying to get those cats spayed because they move quick. Cats move quick and they
yeah,
populate very quickly, and then you're a much bigger problem than started out, and then none of those critters really have that great of a go at it anyway. So that's a good step forward. If you can't find homes, at least make sure that more critters don't come into the equation.
yeah. Most definitely. Like like me and my ex, we really got into taking cats off the street, and it's like a bunch of the cats I have were on the street
Mm.
that I took in and got fixed up, and yeah, they're so lovable, and yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
and being a comic book guy, it's like, it's like I meet so many others that also have pets, and because we're all
Yes.
just sitting on our ass working all day, and it's good to have
Exactly.
some love here.
Yeah, it's not the most social occupation, that's for sure, especially if you're on the artistic end of it. Like I could see it very easy to go full on
Yeah.
hermit, and if you don't have a friend, a buddy around to kind of keep you sane, keep you guided, you can get in some trouble. I can guarantee it.
Yeah.
So no, that's a good thing to do. Always, that's always been a guiding compass in my life. Has been critters. Just wonderful.
That's awesome. So, you said originally before that you were into plays. Is that something you
Yes.
still pursue, or?
No, and I never like got anything that was acted or anything, right? I just write scripts. It was a
Mm,
form of writing that
gotcha.
I understood and enjoyed because like I've done prose writing, I've done more like novelization kind of writing, short stories in particular, and like it's just so
Right.
much wasted time for me. You're just filling up space so much. You could be saying something really specifically, but again, it's not as economical as a comic can be, where the art says so much, and you need a line or two. And I really
Yeah.
appreciate that kind of expression that respects the consumer's time. That it just makes me feel better about it. It's like I'm not wasting your time. I'm just trying to tell you something, right? And I want to do that in a way that you can engage with and enjoy, and not so much where I'm not really enjoying the creation process. And so plays was like my first expression kind of towards that, because again, it's almost like paneling, where you can have a setup, the scene, right, and then you have the mood, the tone, and what the maybe the stage movement will be, and then you have dialogue. And I was mainly into that kind of writing, where I didn't have to set up a scene through a bunch of flowery language or guide it as well. It's just like next part, next part, next part. It was that ordering. And then coming to comic scripting, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of what I was doing before, but even more efficient. And I was in love
Yeah.
with it since then.
I'm not an actor, but I had a friend who was an actor, and back in the day, he was doing some off Broadway plays that he got me involved with. Lights and
Oh.
uh, different stage stuff. And I just love. I do love the atmosphere of it and the creative process of it, and
Yeah.
I imagine it's like it's similar to movie making to a degree, like where like things evolve and change because of the people involved. It's like I imagine you working with your creative team, like you were saying, you're pretty hands off, like you let it happen, you know, but that's
Yeah.
still a way of being a part of it. It's like you know to leave them alone and let them do it.
And they had to earn that from me, right? Too. It wasn't just like out of nowhere. We had to
Yeah,
find that pattern, what works, because obviously a lot of creatives will probably go completely off the rails. I'm sure that happens if you're not
yeah,
more hands on. But that's what worked for us, where we were kind of gauging what level of communication was necessary to do something cool, and not so much even do something cool that was like specifically what was designed to happen, but something cool that came out of the intention or the desire to create between the members. And I mean, again, I'm very happy with how I'm able to make these things happen, but I have no issue with other folks and how they make things happen, because that to me that's something I can't do, and it can be a wonderful way of doing it. Some folks in their creative pattern just don't communicate well, and so you can see that on the page. You see that a lot on the page. Which is kind of disappointing, because you can see like there was potential there for something better, but it's also like some folks need that more rigid hand to feel like what they are intending for, especially if you say you're like in my case, where you're paying the page rates. I can see a lot of people feeling more like obligated to make sure that they get a return on their investment, and it's what they wanted exactly, because they had a very specific vision. My vision is it exists, it's very strong, but it's not rigid. It's not rigid. It definitely has a lot of room for fluidity and for chaos, but the kind of chaos that's more opportunity than insanity.
yeah. Right. Yeah, I totally get that. It's that's I, I can imagine, like, people that don't create comics have no idea what you're talking about, but I totally understand, like,
Yeah, yeah, no, it's definitely a dialogue, and the more members of your team, right, the more kind of craziness you might have to deal with. I run a few different teams as well. Jack Iron Steel Cowboys, the project that has moved the furthest and gained the most attention, but every team that I've been a part of has a different pattern. I've also done like shorts for a few other creators. I've written shorts, right, and watching that go through the editorial process when it wasn't mainly me being the editor, that was a trip. Those kind of experiences and such are kind of why I do this, because I love seeing what can be done when people are slamming their abilities together. I think that's one of my favorite parts about comics, and,
right.
and when they gel together, they fit together like a puzzle instead of being jammed together. It can be something really really cool you don't get in many other art forms. Like you brought up, plays has a lot of that. Movies, of course, have a lot of that too. All these collaborative arts, that's always an aspect of it. But I don't know, comics in particular
Yeah.
has a special kind of magic and quirkiness to it. I think that the others don't really have to the same flavor, the same degree.
Yeah, it's like back in the day, things were a lot more rigid,
Mhm.
like especially like over at Marvel and DC, where there was a writer, there was a penciler, there was an anchor, colorist, and letterer, and all the was made all together, making it work. Nowadays, it's like it's all over the place. Like an artist can be a writer, and a writer can be a letterer and a colorist, and it's like it's whatever. Or some people are doing everything. um
Yes.
but yeah, I just love the process of it, and I mean, I'm 30 years into the business. I'm really just beginning as far as making my own stuff. um but it's just such a fun fueled experience that, yeah, I could see this doing this for years and years to come, for sure.
Oh yeah, and working in that more rigid like assembly line thing, I could see that like bringing out some of the best in people as well, because you have this tighter deadline, you have this structure that isn't like as personal, so you have to make sure it fits within that structure. And some people work wonderful under that kind of pressure. I'm not sure I would personally, but I know my team has. They've done ongoing, so that's wonderful to see that. But yeah, the monthly book assembly line structure never really interested me. I would love to have the creative energy and the financial backing, honestly, to be able to do it at that pace. But I don't know if the work would have the ability to have as much heart and honestly adaptation to it when you are forced into that sort of almost production line kind of process. But man, putting out, okay, people really do underestimate how much work goes into a comic and putting it out in a month, and how much different like
Yeah.
gears are pushing it. It's an incredible endeavor. It's an incredible endeavor.
Totally. It's like that's the advantage of a lot of independent creators and teams and whatnot. That like a lot of people do maybe a book a year. Maybe twice a year. Like if they're really going with steam. But I rarely see like even a bi-monthly independent comic out there. But that's okay, because they're really putting the heart and soul into it, like I said, and really giving the quality.
Yeah, and it can be hard to find that quality too. Again, the production line always demands a few sacrifices on that level here and there, and it can come from different places, but a lot of the time it certainly can be felt, and that's always it's wonderful that folks have this consistent ability to read a story and enjoy a story, but at the same time, like how good is that story? How good is that expression of art compared to if they had taken 2 months on it, or 3 months on it, compared to the monthly schedule? And that's something I actually do hope to have to wrestle with one day. But right now I don't, and I am also happy with that.
Yeah, yeah. So, are you the one putting together the crowdfunding pages, or do you have help with that?
I mean, it's me, but of course, I run it by my publisher. I run it by my co-editor here, Dolan Coins. I run it by the team. I get assistance on it, but like the actual running and this kind of stuff, all of that, it's all me. It's all me. Um,
Because
doing the
that's a lot
communication,
of work, and
shaking
that's a
hands.
challenge.
Yeah, but that's my
Yeah,
part of it.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not sitting at a table for 8 hours drawing and inking a page, right? I'm not sitting there trying to
right.
figure out the right color tones to do that. So I have this time. Again, without this monthly schedule or that kind of production output, I don't have to worry about scripting like consistently. I don't have to hustle for the scripting. I can take my time on it. So it allows me to have the time to do marketing, to do the setups, to run the business end of it. And I'm very happy to. I think I do it relatively well. It kept us afloat for 4 issues, and at the moment, 3 titles. So I mean, it's been fun. It's been fun, and for a guy who came out of nowhere to kind of just dive headfirst into comics is I definitely was a sink or swim situation, and I've kept the head above water for a good chunk of time. So that always brings me hope. It's like, if I can do it for this long, I could probably keep doing it, especially if I keep getting better and keep looking for better ways to do things.
Yeah, yeah. It's like more and more I see like people like yourself that are not in the industry, coming out of nowhere, but they're doing great work and they become names. It's like you said, you're doing short stories for other people and whatnot. It's like I'm sure there's people coming to you with opportunities, and you're probably turning some down and saying yes to others.
Here and there, not as much as I'd like, because again, I do have time. I do have time. If folks are interested, I always get in contact. I always got an ear open. You got to keep that hustle alive. But no, I've the projects I've been accepted on, and the projects that have really wanted me to do something and not just been like feelers reaching out, have been great experiences. Again, working with an editor, like a more rigid editor for the first time, was a very unique experience, and watching how they could add layers to what I was doing, especially since it was in a genre I had like no experience in. That was a lot of fun. It was doing slasher. That is definitely not a genre I'm all in on. So it was interesting they thought of me, but so that was a great learning experience. I love doing things kind of out of the comfort zone. And then I've done yeah, and then the other thing was a kind of a comedic short that I did for another thing that hasn't hit publication yet. It hasn't been printed, hasn't been pushed yet. So I'm excited for that to come out. But that was fun too. Again, trying to hit more on the comedy end than what I do with Jack. Jack has a little bit of sarcasm to it, has a little bit of a smirk, as I'd say, to it. But it definitely didn't lean heavy into like setup punchline like that work did. So yeah, I'm always open for opportunities. I just want folks to always understand like who they're working with and how I do the work, because that's how things can work. I just use that word a lot, but that's how things can move forward, and that's how I've always approached all the talents I've worked with for pinups and for other side bits to do with Jack in particular. I've always tried to make sure I have some sort of dialogue rapport with them, and I understand how they do their particular type of work, so I know what I'm getting into. Because if you don't know what you're getting into, you can end up in some trouble, particularly in indie comics where there's quite a few artists that can be exceedingly flaky. There's a few writers and editors who say they can do something and don't. There's a lot of more kind of less professional bits, which you'd expect in independent art, right? So you got to be careful as you're building like your mechanism and how you make your art. But By and large, folks want to keep doing comics, so they'll usually adapt to what you need, or you'll be able to adapt to what they need to make the thing happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's like what I find is, it's like talking about it is exciting and thrilling, and then actually doing the work is something else entirely, and that's when people drop off.
Exactly, exactly. Actually, having to put the nose to the grindstone instead of just theorizing and imagining. Yeah, it's definitely night and day. It's night and day, and you want the folks. You want to work with the folks who understand that difference and know what they're getting into, and can hopefully in the dialogue express that they know what they're getting into. And hopefully you know what you're getting into. I've seen a lot of people get
Yeah,
it in over their heads because they look at comics as something that's like an easy medium to get into, and compared to some, yes, but honestly, it is not. It's a rough one. It's a rough one in a lot of aspects. A lot of people get burnt out. A lot of people give their entire artistic heart and career, years and years, decades to it, and they come out with nothing. You got to respect comics.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Totally. Like, it would be easier to work in McDonald's or whatever, my lifestyle would be as good, and I'd have less long nights. Um,
Exactly. Uh,
but, but yeah, it's really to commit to this, whether you be a writer or an artist or whatever. Um, takes a real passion and follow through and dedication. You can't just be joking around. Um, so like, I don't see a lot of books that are doing single issue crowdfunders, issue after issue after issue, and it's always great for me to see that, because that's like kind of my plan going is to do single issues. I don't see a problem with that. People want to do bigger books or whatever, but I hate the name floppy, but that explains what it is. It's like a
yeah,
regular issue. Um,
yeah.
you know, but to crowdfund issue after issue after issue, I think is okay. Like, there are more independent creators out there. There are more people crowdfunding, and I think there should be more people crowdfunding single issues. Like, we should be supporting those creators more, because the intent on the long game of doing a series ongoing, and that's who I really want to see become highly successful.
I'd love to
you
see that
know
too. I know it's a bit it is a bit of insanity because you don't have that again that production line behind it, so you're not pumping out 12 issues a year. You're pumping out, like you said, one or two. And so folks tend to like doing the whole graphic novel format. Some creators too, they have different kinds of creative minds. Like for me, I'm very uh, there's so much to tell with what's already been done. Like this is what I need to spend my time into. Whereas other creators, they'll do like a 128 page graphic novel or something, and then that's self contained. That tells everything of that story, and then they have like a million other ideas they want to get to, and that's great. That's another wonderful path to take. But it isn't the long form storytelling that I want to do. Like you can do it like that. Like you could crowdfund sequential 128-page graphic novels if you wanted, but it's something about the pacing of a floppy or a regular comic issue that I really like. It usually gets in, does what it needs to do, and then gets out. It doesn't linger with you, doesn't stick with you for forever, right? It doesn't demand so much of you, both of the creative team and of the reader. And it allows me to pivot, adjust, and adapt as we create a lot better, right? I'm not stuck in like this large form graphic novel, whatever I'm doing. It's going to be that, and there's no room to change it or adapt it as we learn how people are enjoying it or not. It's done. It's going to be what it's going to be. Whereas something like what I'm doing with Jack Irons, I can learn and grow each issue and implement that knowledge, and you can watch the series grow alongside the creative team. And I think there's a certain magic to that definitely I would love to see become significantly more successful. Of course, on my end, I absolutely love that. But as a standard, I love to see more creators being able to tell these longer stories with deep characters instead of doing more, more cinema single expression kind of storytelling.
Yeah, I know. Me personally, I want to do it all. Like, I want to do the ongoing series. I want to do the graphic novel. I want to do the one shots. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
because I have different stories to tell in different ways I want to tell them. So, uh, what would you say has been your biggest challenge uh, with your book throughout I imagine the past batch of years?
Been a lot, right? So of course, getting the funding is always something like this. Doing the footwork and the legwork to get word out grassroots, because that's the only way something like this kind of gets any traction these days. But that's tough. That's tough. But once it's done, it's not so bad. A lot of it has been like the learning curve of production in different aspects. But I think there's a few things that hold back awareness of a work. For instance, I'd love to actually get into stores. I'd love that floppy our covers to stand next to other books covers, because we compete quite a bit. You're not going to see something like our books next to our books, and I think it would be wonderful to have that level of passive awareness. Getting the word out is probably the toughest challenge, just because again, especially nowadays, the last couple years, it's been a very hungry comic scene. Folks are definitely leaning into their passions and their dreams, both for financial gain and because maybe there's this feeling of immediacy, like they need to do it soon because of how time has been ticking along the last few years. But also, I think uh, I think it's y- bridging the gap personally as a product. There's so many ways to get your entertainment these days. Comics has a tough go of it, really does. And comic fans are exceedingly passionate. Comics fans are incredible, but they are not as numerous as any comic creator wishes they were. And I would love for something to
Yeah,
really, really drag in folks into a very unique expression of art again. You can't do a lot of things. You can do a lot of things in comics that you can't do in other mediums, not only budgetary wise, but with pacing and how you can communicate via paneling and the scenes you can do that you couldn't even do in animation. And I think folks kind of look past comics a lot of the time, especially these days. um, because it's had especially in Western culture, it's had a slight stigma to it of being a childish art, right? But and then we worked very hard in again like the 80s and the 90s to kind of shrug that stigma almost too hard in some cases, and went very far with making sure that no, it's an adult medium as well. But it never really reached that home, right? I still think there's more like book readers than there are comic readers, and that makes sense. But again, there's stuff you can do in comics you can't do in prose, and I think there's certain stories that can only be communicated through comics, and it's a shame that people pass it up when there could be something that is life changing in those pages. And I know it's done that for me multiple times, and it's part of the again, I use the word magic again. It's part of why I do this is that bridging that gap. And so awareness, so that gap can be bridged between folks you never meet, and all of that. That's been like the biggest biggest struggle is making sure it gets in front of people and is seen. Just because again, it's the awareness.
Yeah.
The awareness is hard to find. Awareness is hard to find. So I thank you so much for
Yeah.
having this is an opportunity for it, right? I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. There's definitely like, yeah, in other media, there's definitely a bigger fan base. I don't think we're competing necessarily. Like,
No.
we have as many fans as we have, and that's what it is. We just have to get new fans, get the word out, that sort of thing. Conventions is one way. I'm doing YouTube. I know you're on Twitter. Are you anywhere else that you post and get the word out on what you're up to and all that?
Yeah, so ironversecomics.com has all our links. We're on all the social sites. And I run my own
Okay.
YouTube channel, Ironverse Comics, where I talk about comics, life, all that fun stuff. So yeah, I mean, you got to hit every tool that's available in the toolbox and see what works for you. Twitter was the main one that worked for me. I joined it at the right time, where people's awareness was kind of going towards indie, and I was able to find that original foothold, and we haven't lost that foothold. I'm pretty sure we've gained quite a bit of traction. It's just as the years have ticked on too. I mean, times have been hard for folks, and so investing in a premium kind of exclusive comic book is it can be a tough call for folks, and crowdfunding has an interesting history and an interesting dynamic where if you get kind of screwed over by what you take that faith and you give that faith to one creator and they don't deliver, then it's very unlikely that comic fan is going to go ahead and do it again to somebody else, even if that person has like a track record of delivering, because they can get their monthly floppy. They can get their Batman story. They can get
Yeah.
their Spider-Man, and not have to worry if it's coming. They just like, I'm there on Wednesday. There's my books, and so it's a tough one trying to navigate those seas and then create hype and then manage that hype to where you can guide it towards consistent production. And that's if awareness was like the biggest thing, trying to leverage the awareness we do have into consistent production would be the second biggest hurdle. Trying to get that to consistent engagement and grassroots movement, that is very tough. But it's I think over time, a quality product and project does speak for itself, but it's a lot easier for it to speak for itself if people can actually see it. So I would say
Yeah.
that would definitely be the second hurdle is reaching a point where you can actually then consistently engage and produce, in particular the product that you want to, right? Like YouTube or whatever, you can do those consistently, and that really helps with branding. It helps with awareness, helps build community. But quite often, especially in comics, like they're there for you as a personality, or they are there for your work, and got to find that balance and hope that they stick around for both. But for me, like, I'm way more into the work than I am in the marketing and the consistent engagement. Like, if I could just huddle down and get paid to make comics, I'd be one happy cat. But we're not at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, I look forward to the day like I want to build like just a small publishing company that would put out my books. And if I can get like you, if I can get to the where I'm not the spokesman, I'm just doing the work, that would be excellent.
Yes. Exactly. I'm totally happy with project management. I love working on that end, but it's again, it's getting those eyes, getting the attention, bridging that personal gap, which is a big one. I think a lot of crowdfunding, it is that personal like investment that people want to see your work, but they want to see you succeed in that work as much, if not more so. And that's a big one.
Yeah.
And I've been very lucky to bridge that gap again and again. But eventually, like, I would love to be able to limit that to, like, here's just the awesome thing you folks allow me to do, instead of like, hey, look at me, this is what I do, this is my story, again and again and again. I mean, that's part of it, right? It's always been part of it at con
Yeah.
circuits. It's always been part of the show, making a personality, bridging that gap. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to get rid of it, but how
Yeah.
demanding of it is, and how rewarding it is compared to how demanding production of a book is, and how rewarding getting that book out is it's close, but I definitely prefer getting the book out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. Like, it's like all this is meaningless if we don't actually produce the work. So,
Exactly, it's all just
um,
bluster.
but I'm curious. Like you were saying about getting your book into retailers, have you made any steps in that direction?
So my publishing company, Wicked Publishing, they have a bunch of smaller titles under their wing, and they've had for a while. I think they're up to 20 titles under the wing, including Jack. Jack is their most popular, but distribution has not been kind to them, and I don't know why exactly. I kind of sometimes they're just ghosted by the distribution, so they don't even know why, right? But they have not been able to secure distribution. So then the next step is putting in the grassroots roots work to actually like directly contact retailers, and that just has not come to fruition on their end yet, which aggravates me a little bit. But it's also like a lot of retailers, they also prefer, like, they get their comics out of Previews World, right? They know where they're getting them. Like that, like the guy who's there and picking up Spider-Man or Batman every week. They have a system that they're comfortable with. And so getting independent books into those stores via that direct communication, that is also another hurdle. But I think that's one that could be overcome. Jeff Smith's Bone from back in the day, that's how he got it into stores. He called every comic shop in the country at that time. I mean, it's doable,
Yeah.
and I think that spirit of comics is still there, especially if it provides something unique that actually might directly interest the owner of the retails, the owner of the shop, which I think our work has a good chance of doing that, because again, nothing like it on the shelves. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a tough one. It's a tough one. All these different networking connections, and then the paths and patter that you find with different aspects of the business. You got to find a way to navigate them and grow them. And we've been stuck in that distribution one for a year or two at this point. And it would be nice to see that move. But we also kind of started pitching it when distribution took a massive hit, right? So we'll see what
Yeah.
time does. It just got to stick with it and be a little stubborn, and a little tenacious, and keep at it. And I have quite a bit of hope that bridge will be crossed. It's just it is taking some time.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a comment by somebody, but before I get to that, I'll just say, like the people the friends and fellow creators I've seen that crowdfunded their own books, how they got them into stores was simply just bringing them to each individual store and say, hey, do you want to put a couple on the shelf? That sort of guerrilla marketing kind of thing, and
Yes.
that seems to have worked for independent creators.
Yeah, and that would be great. I'm up here in the mountains of northern New Mexico. The nearest comic shop for me is 75 miles. So I would love to do that more easily for me, right? But to be fair, my publishers don't have
Right.
the same excuse. They're out in Northern California. There's quite a few places they could hit, but they also have day jobs. They have something
Yeah.
else that they do. So it's finding those
Right.
balances, and doing that. But I'm 100% with you. Like, if you have the ability to, you have a local shop and you have a book, there is no harm in bringing up that you have a book to your local shop. Like, there's no harm at all. But comic fans are comic fans. They are always curious and interested in what's being made, even if it's and if somebody like took the time to put up a shop and sell comics, then they're interested in comics. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not a business you get in to make bucko bucks. You get into it because you like comics, and the environment and the community and all of that.
Right. Right. So EJB says in the single issue versus bigger book crowdfund is one of the concerns is the price point. How much are readers willing to pay per issue on a regular basis? Well, that's, I mean, you answer that however you see fit.
Yeah, sure. No, I'm happy to. That's the deal, right? That's a massive one. So, um, on the bigger books, of course, it looks better on paper for whatever price you're trying to charge it. It's just going to because you're providing more content. There's no question there, right? And people maybe only back one or two crowdfunders every couple months at like most, and that's those people who are like super invested in doing it. Some other folks like maybe one a year, and so you want that larger premium hardcover graphic novel presentation because that's like your treat for the year. You're helping this creator you really like, and you can spend a good chunk on it. Whereas a floppy, it's a little less appealing. But the issue that we run into is that when you're doing small press and and with the shipping and in my case paying the page rates we do so that they're living page rates for our artistic team, even though most indie publishers these days don't even pay the living rates.
Right.
It's tough for when you're moving say 500 issues, you're moving 1,000 issues at like the top. The profit margins just aren't there to knock down that price really low. Some creators have found ways, especially if you're like the writer, artist, creator, you're doing everything yourself, so your main investment is printing and time. They're able to knock those prices down in the hopes that they will get more readers, but it's not economical for a lot of teams because again, unless you're doing some weird profit sharing thing or an IP sharing deal or something that can get it can get hairy if you're not doing it with the right people, especially if you're just like meeting people off the web. Then you're somebody's paying page rates, and if somebody's paying page rates, they better be paying page rates that the team deserves and needs to actually be investing their time into the work. And comics aren't cheap to make, even if you're making a shorter floppy, and it's not cheap to make. Again, if you're paying good page rates, if you're paying like really poor page rates, you're likely also getting a relatively unskilled team, and so the whole quality suffers. So you can pay cheaper for a cheaper book, or you can pay premium for a good book, or you can pay extreme premium for a high end book. It's just kind of how it goes, right? What you're paying for is what you get. I think the quality of some indie books, they are charging too much, and I think the quality of some indie books, they're charging too little. But it's always a with crowdfunding in particular, it's always a case by case basis, and you're always also investing in that team, in that expression, in that project. You're not just purchasing a product. You're investing in the future, I would hope. Very few comics folks who do crowdfunding are only going to do one crowdfunder, particularly if it's successful. They usually have another idea, another project, or another issue, like in my case, that they want to do. So you're investing in what work they're trying to produce, and in crowdfunding, you're going to get stuff you can't get anywhere else. So I think that's part of the price point, right? But I totally understand when you can get a 600 page manga volume for $10, and then you're looking at a crowdfunded book for like 32 bucks, 32 pages for like, again, $25 or something. Yeah, I get you. I feel that, but it's got to look at it beyond just the product in a lot of cases, and that's why a lot of this stuff, this interpersonal connection, making sure that the team is direct and honest with how production goes and with their customer base, all of that, it's part of what you're paying for to support and build.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, it totally varies. So it's a case by case deal. Like, if you think the price matches the quality and the amount of what you're getting, then it's a good deal. you know,
Yes, exactly.
um, absolutely. You know, one of the things I wanted to mention, and this has more to do in the movie realm, but there's a YouTuber who has close to 2 million subscribers, Chris Stuckman. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
It
He
sounds
reviews movies.
okay.
Yeah, he he did his own fan films throughout the years. Like when he was really young, he did a couple of sort of Indiana Jones remakes in, filming it himself. Um, and he put together a Kickstarter that went live yesterday at 3 o'clock, and it was totally funded today at 3:19. So within 24 hours and 19 minutes, the goal of it was 250,000.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? And I'm not sure like what the benefits people were backing, right? But he put in the work, he built a fan base, and then he channel that ability into a platform that allowed him to do something different. And that's I love seeing that. There was
Yeah.
another guy who dropped forgot his name, but he dropped a surprise like set of novels just a day or two ago. And he made like $9 million in the first day. It was
Wow.
slowing Kickstarter like crazy. Like it was a problem for folks who were launching their projects the same day because so many people were just going directly to that. And he came out of nowhere. There was no
That's
marketing
crazy.
hype to it. There was no like heat to it. It was just like, hey guys, I put a Kickstarter up for my new stuff, and it did it. So like the potential is more in like the platform gives a little bit of help, like minuscule. It's definitely the personalities and the branding and the marketing and the community that whatever creator has been able to build around them that really turns into that energy that allows you to manifest the work. And I mean that's crazy. It's insane the possibilities these days. Like you could never um, do anything like comics related that was going to make a couple $100,000 yourself like back in the 80s. It just was not going to happen. You could
Right.
do really well again, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles came out of nowhere, but it was a diamond in the rough, and the resources and ability to connect with readers and people was just not there. And so now it's there, but it also means it's quite competitive for attention, and you also have to be providing some kind of, I would say, passive value, some kind of something that they can invest in again in you for a reason or another.
Yeah. Landon says, so I guess the question is, how do you form that kind of fan base? Well, the second I figure it out, I'll do it myself.
Exactly. Trust me, once I figure it out, it'll be live streamed, good sir. No, yeah, there's no key to that. You have to. Yeah, my guess is just nose to the grindstone, and eventually you hit upon the right opportunity if you're so lucky and you make the right choices, right? And there's no guarantees, particularly in art. There's just no guarantees, but you can luck out. You can luck out, and you can do the hard
Yeah.
work. And you're never guaranteed. No guarantees. You're never guaranteed a good result, no matter how hard you work, no matter how good the work is. But you can just hope. You can hope. Yeah, if there was a key, man, everybody'd be doing it. I wish I could tell you as well.
Yeah. I mean, I know in like Chris Stuckman's case, years and years and years, it's not like an overnight success. And
Yeah.
what he's offering is like behind the scenes of the creation of the movie from every step. And so like, it's really something for just fans of movies, but also fans of how movies are made, like, would want to pledge to that kind of thing and so forth. So it's worth it to those that are into all that. I'm just happy, like, I know he's loved films, and the way he reviews movies has always been intelligent. So I know he has like insights other people don't. So I would love to see a movie by him. I don't have the money to pledge to his thing, but that's okay. It's like I'm just a starving comic book guy. Um, but it's all good. But it was great having you on today, and
Oh,
and
thank you.
definitely, like there's what 49 more days to your campaign. Definitely come on
Yes.
before it ends to talk about it again.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that. It was great meeting you and chatting. One of the big things I am missing is talking to folks who have been in the trenches for a good chunk of time. Again, I've been in the trenches of this particular project for a long time, but actually being in the industry and trying to survive and create within it, I don't have that experience. So it's always a blessing to meet and chat with somebody who has had that, and I found this wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, thank you everybody who showed up and chatted, and always great to see people asking questions and adding their 2 cents to the conversation. If you haven't already, give it a like, the video a like, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And we're not coming back tomorrow, but we'll be here Friday with a guest. So I hope to see everybody then. But for now, yeah, have a great night or
All
day
right,
or
take care,
whatever.
folks.
Be careful and spay your